Welcome back to CFO Weekly, where we're talking with financial leaders about how to build efficiency in their teams, create time for strategy, and ultimately get results. With your host, Megan Weiss. Let's jump right in.
Today, my guest is Scott Parnell. Scott is the Chief Financial Officer at DailyPay. Since joining the DailyPay team, he has built a fortress balance sheet to ensure the safety and soundness of their offering. Scott spent over 20 years as a finance leader in organizations such as TIAA, Citigroup, and Student Loan Corporation. He has a wealth of expertise and experience in leading businesses to achieve financial success. Matched with his entrepreneurial spirit and enthusiasm, Scott has played a pivotal role in not only laying down the cultural foundation at DailyPay, but also designing an efficient finance team. An effective communicator and change maker, he is known to drive visions from here to there. Scott is a CPA and has a BBA from the University of Texas at Austin and an MBA from Columbia Business School. During his free time, Scott enjoys time with his family, hiking, and cycling. Scott, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you and your listeners.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about your journey as a CFO, but also discussing a topic that's somewhat new to me and the market in general, I think, but seems to be gaining in popularity, which is on-demand pay. I'm excited to learn more about this topic, so let's get started.
Fantastic.
First of all, let's start with you. Let's take a look at your career journey and how it is that you got to where you are today.
Sure. I started working for Arthur Andersen a long time ago. When it was one of the big 8 public accounting firms. And very early in my career, was attracted to the CFO and controller spots. I was energized by the blend of leadership, technical abilities, and opportunities to impact the company and the industries that the CFO operated in. And so very early in my career, I got some great mentorship on how to build the skill set, the toolkit, to be able to be a successful CFO, and went ahead and pursued that. Over the years, I picked up my MBA. I migrated from being more of a debits and credits accountant to being a broader finance professional. And I focused my career in financial services, such as banking, brokerage, and insurance, and picked up a lot of skills along the way. And the last thing I'd say is throughout my career, I've been blessed with a lot of roles that allowed me the privilege of leading meaningful transformations for the organizations that I was working with. And that's something that I really enjoy doing. That's something that, every time you do it, you get to learn, you get to contribute, you get to have impact. And I just find that very fulfilling.
Yeah, those transformations are very meaningful experiences. So that's great that you've been able to have a few of those experiences along the way.
Absolutely.
And I think it's great that you knew early that you wanted to be a CFO. I think a lot of people maybe just fall into the role eventually, but to know that you wanted to do that early on is awesome.
That was good. And I followed that path for a really long time and ended up at some very large organizations. But the last time I found myself looking for the next opportunity, I did some soul searching and decided that I wanted to focus on earlier stage companies where you have much more ability to impact everything from the day-to-day to the strategy, while there's always an element of the corporate and board-related activities. It's not the primary part. It's less specialized, so you get to touch a lot more things in an early stage company.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for that, and that's how I found my way to DailyPay. It was an amazing company with a great value proposition that had tremendous market opportunities, and seemed like it had the wherewithal to deliver.
Yeah, that's great. And it sounds similar to my story. I worked for large organizations for a very long time and eventually came to the conclusion that I wanted something less specialized because those big organizations tend to pigeonhole people. So let's talk a little bit about DailyPay and what it is that they do.
Absolutely. So Daily Pay, we are a hyper-growth technology company that provides benefits to employees and their employers. We're most known for our gold standard on-demand pay solution, where we integrate with companies' time and attendance systems, the payroll systems, the HRIS systems, in order to improve financial health of employees. Let me double click on that. I'll give you an example. If you worked at one of our partners, say Target or Torchy's Tacos.
I'm looking. I just had Torchy's Tacos last night for dinner.
Love Torchy's Tacos.
Me too.
Love Target. We love all of our partners. But we integrate with each of these companies. And because the integration with the company systems, say you worked a shift, within in a very short amount of time after your shift, you can go on an app and see your pay balance. And by pay balance, I mean the amount of money you'll make on the next payday for the hours you've already worked in this pay period.
Wow.
Right. So it's like going into the ATM and saying, how much money do I have in my savings account? So within a short amount of time after that shift, you can look at it. Now, many people just use this feature to plan better. Perhaps they take on an extra shift or manage their spending and saving differently. But if people need access to their pay balance before payday, we give them access to their money for $2.99. We'll move cash to their debit card within 30 seconds.
Wow.
Or if they have a little bit more time, we can do it overnight for $1.99 or even for free. So you can imagine having access to money that they've already earned, how that changes the game when they've got bills to pay and want to avoid late fees, or they need to deal with a medical bill so they can get to work or whatever, right? We find on average, we save the employees themselves that use our product over $1,100 of hard money, overdrafts, late fees, and such per year. And this is a demographic that really needs that $1,100 each year, right? And because we're helping solve those problems, everything from planning to access to their own money, those employees on average stay 40% longer with their employers. They have lower absenteeism. They are more engaged at work. And so you can imagine if you're the CFO of a company that offers Daily Pay, you appreciate this because the companies typically do not pay us anything for at least the on-demand pay product that we offer. All they have is an integration, administration, a little bit of additional work that they have to do to help us integrate into their systems. But once we're set up, it's pretty light touch, no change management. And so the employee wins, lower cost, less stress. The employer wins because they have lower turnover and more engaged staff. And we win because we've got an amazing product market fit that could help. We see it over 49 million employees here in the US alone.
That's amazing. So on-demand pay is truly something I just heard of this year. So how long has that been around for?
There have been different versions of it for some time, but our gold standard product has been out since 2018. And so it's still relatively new. And even since I joined late 2019, we've gone from where we're primarily evangelizing, explaining what is on-demand pay, to now over 37% of the market is aware of it or is looking for a solution so they can be more competitive at attracting and retaining great talent. And so we kind of turned the corner, and now it's about scaling up to meet all that growing demand.
And who is your ideal client?
We want to help everybody out there. Right now, our model fits clients that have 400 or more employees, just because of the integration on the front end and the dependencies that we have on there being good processes around payroll and data management.
And how exactly, what if a company already outsources payroll to, let's say, like an ADP? Do you integrate with that provider, or how does that work?
That's a great question. And That's one of the things DailyPay, it's one of our secret sauces. Our technology is so versatile that we integrate with ADP, we integrate with Paylocity, we integrate with all of the payroll providers out there. I think we have over 180 different integration configurations that we're currently supporting, and we're adding new ones every day. And that spans from the more market dominant ADP to more industry specific providers to homegrown systems. Some of the largest companies have homegrown accounting systems and payroll systems, and we integrate with those as well.
And as you look back on your time with DailyPay, what are your proudest achievements since joining that company?
Well, first, I'd say the enterprise success has got to be number one. Seeing DailyPay help so many is very rewarding. Right now, we're helping over 2.6 million employees have access to our platform. And seeing that grow as we invest in new ways to help our partners and their employees is very rewarding, and one of the key reasons I came to DailyPay. The second is really building a fortress balance sheet, helping fund over $500 million of financing between debt, equity, and warehouse financing, so we can deliver our promises that we've made to our partners and investors. Third is driving the P&L. That's what I call helping the organization prioritize and balance the investments. And you got to think about all the waves that we had to go through the past couple of years between COVID and the various different uncertainties in the capital markets and such. So, helping the company through the exogenous activities as well as the hyper growth, and as we evolve as a company internally. And then the last thing I'd say is helping DailyPay build what I call financial engines and brakes. Just building an awesome finance and admin team. I have legal under me as well, and making sure that we're implementing the right enterprise risk management and the right tone at the top. So we're able to help the company think and execute and control.
Those are some amazing achievements.
It's been a great team effort.
Yeah, I'm sure it has been. Just out of curiosity, are you guys public? Are you a public company?
No, we finished our Series D round in May of this last year, and we're not public, but like all rapid growth companies that have constant need for capital, we do want to create as much optionality for our board as it relates to how they might fund the balance sheet. And as such, we are putting in your typical controls that would give them the maximum opportunity to source different fundings.
And what, if any, are the downsides of on-demand pay?
What are the downsides of on-demand pay?
I don't know if there are any, but I'm just curious.
We see it as there are not many downsides. Again, we see the benefits as all positive. I think where some people are concerned are you're giving people access to money, and do they spend it before they get payday? I think there's that concern. We have a lot of data that says people use our product very smartly, and a lot of people again just use the product to know they don't even draw on their money. They're just using it to do better planning. But I would also say that there are some less compliant solutions out there in the marketplace under the guise of on-demand pay, and we've put every effort in to make sure that we're super compliant, and we're putting together a very secure set of solutions that have high reliability and amazing information security. And so, I think what we're trying to do is make sure that the rest of the industry is holding up the same standards that we are.
Does it complicate taxes or anything, or no, not really?
It doesn't the way we do it. We've engineered our product to make sure that we're very compliant with regard to tax, labor, and money transfer and other forms of oversight. And so, no, it doesn't really complicate taxes the way we do it. However, it can if you look at some of our competitors and how they go to market.
So you touched on this a bit, but prior to joining DailyPay, you worked for a long time at large enterprise organizations. So talk to us about the transition of moving from that, mature company to an earlier stage growth company?
I have to say, I really valued all my time at some amazing large organizations. It's been great cutting my teeth at Citi. Citi helped me find my voice as a leader and go from, I was a very good optimizer to, how do you go from being someone that can provide a solution to how do you go to become someone who can lead large groups of people with different interests and priorities through large scale change. And I learned that at Citi and appreciate every day that I had there. I've valued my time at MetLife. I've appreciated my time at TIAA. And again, very proud of those accomplishments. As I mentioned before, I really wanted to have a more hands-on experience for my next opportunity. And so I was looking forward to taking my skills that I learned at the big company to earlier stage company. And thankful for all I learned in transformation. Coming in and having those transformation skills, that is super critical. And if you have only done the job of kind of repeating what your predecessor did with modest improvements or even large improvements, but within a limited number of changes, that would not prepare you well for an early stage hyper growth company. So having that transformation background is super helpful, and definitely get yourself experience in doing that if you want to be successful in early stage. Coming to Daily Pay, that's helped me sharpen a few skills. First is prioritization. It's one thing to know what you want to look like in 3 years. It's something completely different to know which things you absolutely have to do today versus which things can wait a year and a half. And so constant prioritization is a must. And it's not just because of you might be limited in cash, you might be limited in management focus or resources. And so that prioritization that prioritization skill got super sharpened over the last 2 years since I've been here. The second thing is when you're in a hyper growth mode, you have to balance your investments as a company every day. You have to make sure that you're investing in your distribution at just the right pace for the growth that you need, while you're finding just the right pace of investment, hardening your systems or scaling your back end. And so that has been a key focus. That'll force you to really understand how your product works and what the needs of your customers are. And so constant balancing of investment. The third thing is, as an early stage company that isn't yet profitable and one that has a heavy balance sheet focus, constant funding. I'm always talking to potential investors, be it equity, be it warehouse financing, be it debt. And we already know today what my next 4 financings must be, and we've got a map for it. So we're covering the market and making sure that we know what they're looking for, we know who's looking for what, and figuring out who the best partners are to help us get to where we need to be. Lastly, and this was the biggest surprise for me, it shouldn't have been, but it was, the talent pools for people that fit early growth companies, it's different than the talent pools that I was successful tapping into at larger companies. Earlier stage, the comp structure is different, right? People get less cash. That they more often take more in the equity side, and that doesn't fit everybody. Also, some people do really well with less definition of boundaries between what everyone does. Some people like more of that. And so finding people that have the right fit for earlier stage companies and that have kind of a more pioneering spirit, that was a bigger difference than what I was expecting coming here. Now I've been successful here and I'm very proud of the team, but had to go a completely different way of staffing up my team to find the right people.
Yeah, that's very interesting and something that I probably would not have guessed myself. But as the CFO of a company that's just starting up, how do you balance that startup mentality, which is more about risk taking, with controls and having to put controls into place?
I love that question too. I've spent a good part of my career focused on, the control and risk management aspects, just based on the companies that I grew up in. For instance, I helped a subsidiary of Citi put together a Sarbanes-Oxley compliance program before the ink was dry on Sarbanes-Oxley way back when. And I've also built out different economic capital regimes and other things. Here at DailyPay, what we did was we let urgency kind of define where we focused first. And so we had three things that could get us in really quick trouble. Thing one was credit. We're exposed to whether a company can make their payroll. If we give access for a company's employees to their payroll, I need to make sure I get the money back. And so we stood up a credit committee that helps us monitor that big risk and actually filter which companies will underwrite. The second thing that could be existential for DailyPay was information security. We had to be above the standard to make sure that we're protecting our partners' data, their employees' data, and everybody's money. And if we weren't serious and weren't ahead of the game on InfoSec, that would have been, company ending. And so we had a committee on InfoSec. The third place we started from a control standpoint was operation risk. We have a very elegant solution that we provide, but it has a lot of moving parts. And so making sure that we have good risk management around keeping all of the things working at the right pace and all the handoffs working, that was super important, especially as we were starting. And so having people get around and talk about what could break and why, what could go wrong and why, super important. So we stood up that. And then lastly, I mentioned the financing earlier. Every dollar is so dear at an early stage company that we had to put pretty rigorous controls around monitoring our dollars both in and out, making sure that we know how our revenue is doing on an almost minute by minute basis, and making sure that someone very senior was making the decision on whether we could spend our precious dollars. And so I think those four things were existential for DailyPay, and every company has to figure out what their core four things are. Now, as we have had more resources, both human and financial, we have built a more thoughtful end-to-end enterprise risk management capability. We didn't want to have a bunch of different risk management systems and have redundancy. We wanted to make sure that we're very rational and effective as well as efficient in managing our risk, and not just risk avoidance, but making sure that we're making commercial risk management decisions. And so we stood up and are still in the process of fine-tuning an enterprise risk management culture that helps us manage all the different threads of risk that you'd want to in a company like this, and prioritize and even identify market opportunities through doing so.
Oh, well, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job of that. I know, sometimes accounting, finance can be viewed as the cops of the organization or the people that always say no. But it sounds like you guys have a nice balance between control and that startup mentality.
I think that's right. And I can double click on that a little bit. It is our job to say no, but it's also our job to state the conditions to how we can say yes and help the business get there. And so I hold my team up to that standard.
Yeah, that is very important to say no. But if you do say no, have a reason or an alternative in mind.
And especially the alternative. How do we accomplish what you want to accomplish without putting the company at too much risk.
So Daily Pay is obviously making a lot of people's lives easier, but are there any tools or technologies that you're personally using right now that are helping to make your team's life or your life easier at the moment?
We have, I think, gone through a very common maturity evolution of our tools. I think a lot of companies go through something similar where you start on a great tool like QuickBooks, but quickly outgrow it and then have to upgrade to, I don't want to give too much advertisement for people, but other ledger. And so over the past couple of years, we've upgraded our ledger to a more common, early growth company type ledger. We've upgraded our planning system and are using an integrated lateral planning tool that I think is amazing. We have implemented some SaaS-based tools for everything from reporting to how we do our, publishing of our dashboards to how we are, doing. There are just so many tools that we put in. The monthly close automation is another one. So there has been a big focus on that, making sure that we're being both efficient as well as effective.
Yeah, technology it's amazing. It's come such a long way in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I started when laptops were almost unheard of. So
I started not long after that.
But definitely a lot of advancement, even in the last couple of years. I've probably rolled out 5 different planning systems over the years, and each generation of tool gets more intuitive. It becomes easier to distribute accountability and help create many finance partners out of all of the P&L owners in the company. And so that's been a lot of fun to see evolve.
And what advice do you have for CFOs who are looking to drive strategic value to grow revenue and margin?
I think about this a lot, and it's a very humbling question, right? Because your listeners, I'm sure even in my many years, I don't have a lot of things in my playbook that aren't in everybody's playbook. But what I can say is I can share the how I look at it, the approaches I use. It really does matter what the strategy is. Like when I was in crisis management and trying to save a company whose market was falling out from under it, there the focus was, okay, let's create a Pareto diagram of every customer, what their profitability is. Let's look at every driver of performance and profitability. Let's look at adjacencies to see where we might have opportunity and how do we save as many jobs and market value as possible. That's very different than what we've been dealing with here at Daily Pay, where it's the market's growing at 100 to 200% every 6 months, right? And so what we do is build, validate, refine, break, and then rebuild the models as we test each driver and learn what ones are really working. Second, how do we build infrastructure to measure those drivers and keep deep diving into the surprises? Thirdly, we partner passionately with the P&L leaders of the company and the customer focused individuals of the company. There's so many insights. Any piece of friction we pay attention to because it's either an efficiency opportunity, a market opportunity, or both. Additionally, I try to have as many relationships with customers, with CFOs at companies that we support, because there's a treasure trove of opportunities. We also, pay attention to what the customers are telling us from behind the scenes. The third is, the next thing we also do is we just challenge people. We bring them in the room and say, hey, we got to get to a certain place. How do we do that? Yeah, I could go on, but yeah. I'm guessing I'm not telling any secrets. It's just the real question is how do you get the whole company working on these things together?
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy doing is leading that charge.
Empowering people. And I think people, they respond well to that and enjoy the opportunity to feel like they're giving value to the companies they work for.
That's a great point. How do you tap into that? If you can, you have a much higher degree of success.
So lastly, as a CFO, what is keeping you up at night right now?
Well, it's planning season. And so I'm going through the whole process right now of thinking through where we put our next dollar and where I harvest my next dollar and where I'm going to find that next dollar. But a lot of my energy is going into making sure that we're creating that baseline multi-year plan that everyone's calibrated to. So in 2 weeks, when the world changes, we can all change together. I think the second thing is I'm still every day focusing on building my team. There's 1 or 2 roles that we need to drop in to deliver what we've promised to deliver in the next year. And right now, while we've been incredibly successful landing great talent, it's a very competitive market, especially for certain skills like tax and controller and such. And so we're energized in finding the right diverse set of people to help our team, deliver next year. I think the third thing I mentioned, we're always in the market looking at our next financing or building the relationships we might need for the next 2 or 3 financings. And so we're spending a lot of our time making sure that we've charted a good course there and that the relationships will be there when we need it.
Yeah, finding talent these days is definitely not easy. I think it's as competitive as I've ever seen it. And, for the last 10 to 15 years, the accounting profession has been struggling with talent. So, yeah.
I'm trying to talk my daughter into becoming an accountant.
It is a great career path. So many options.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for being my guest today.
It's been a delight. And thank you and your listeners for giving me some time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with you and hearing about your experiences and all of the resulting insights that you've shared with us today. I appreciate you taking the time to be here, and I wish you and Daily Pay all the best. It sounds like you guys are doing amazing things together.
Sure trying. Thank you.
To all of our listeners, please tune in next week, and until then, take care.
If you're ready to boost efficiency and streamline your accounting processes at significant cost savings, it's time to talk with Personiv. Their people-powered solutions have transformed the delivery of back-office tasks and general accounting functions for decades, partnering with clients to provide everything from accounts payable to payroll services. See what Personiv can do for you by visiting personiv.com.
You've been listening to CFO Weekly, presented by Personiv. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to hear all of our episodes. Want to learn more? Check out personiv.com. Thanks for listening.